Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this YouTube ads guide, you're going to learn how to build a conversion optimized YouTube ads campaigns to drive leads and sales to your business using custom combined audiences. Timestamps below, along with some other helpful YouTube ads guides that go through other types of campaigns you can set up to grow your channel and of course expand upon the campaign you're building today. So let's go ahead, jump right into my interface. Now I already have an account set up, and so you can see here we have a couple of campaigns that we've set up for other tutorials, and this is just our demo account. However, if you're setting things up for the first time, you need to switch to something called expert mode in order to get to a page that looks similar to this. So I'm going to hop over to my slides real quick, and when you go to Google and you go to sign in or get started and you log into your account, you're going to be taken to a page that looks something like this. They're always changing it, but you want to look for some fine text at the bottom for custom settings, set up yourself, or something called switch to expert mode. And this is going to allow you to bypass all of that onboarding that Google wants you to do, and it's going to allow you to skip setting up a campaign before you're actually ready to set one up. You might have to enter your billing information, but don't worry, you can always change that later. So now let's go ahead and go into our campaign structure. So here what we're going to do is build campaigns using something called custom combined audiences. This is, we can take a life event or a demographic, and then we can combine it with someone who's actively looking to purchase your product or service. And so this is a really powerful combination, and it's something that we found to be really, really effective. Now, when it comes to how many ad groups you should be setting up per campaign, on average, for every $1.25 to $2 of campaign budget represents one ad group. So looking at this particular example, we need to be spending at least $8 in order to have this many ad groups. So if you're going to be doing something like $2.50 a day or $5 a day, then you should have 2 ad groups or 4 ad groups. We'll get more onto that in a little bit here. Now, here are the settings we're going to be using for this campaign. So take note of this timestamp. I know it is really annoying to go back to YouTube and try and scrub through what was the setting or what was that check mark I was supposed to uncheck. So this is your go-to cheat sheet table when it comes to setting up your own campaigns if you're coming back to this video. So just take note of that timestamp. With that, let's go ahead and actually build out our campaign. So I'll click on this blue plus button here, and I will click on new campaign. You can see I have a couple drafts because always lots of trial and error. And you'll create a campaign without a goal. So you'll notice as we go through here, we want maximum control. We don't want Google helping us in any way, shape, or form. And we'll go ahead and click on video, and we'll leave it at custom video. I'll go ahead and click on continue here, and then we will zoom in so it's a little easier to see. 150, there we go. We'll go ahead and give our campaign a name. Now, with the naming convention, it can be whatever you want. Just make it really simple. Have no more than 3 pieces of information. And the last piece of information should be whether or not it's an in-stream or discovery ad, because you never want in-stream and discovery in the same campaign. So I'm just naming it after the video code, and I'm just going to put demo on the end so I know that this is a demo and not supposed to go live. And the Google Ads copywriter is what we'll be promoting here. So for our bid strategy, go ahead and leave it at CPV, CPM, which is the other one. That's pretty much just to blast the video out to as many impressions as possible. We'll go ahead and switch to daily here and set our budget to $5 a day. So we'd have about 4 ad groups in this particular ad. And for our start and end date, I recommend starting in the future. So start it on a Monday or a Thursday. Monday if you're going to be reviewing your results on Mondays, or Thursday if you're going to be reviewing your results at the end of the week. So let's just say I'm going to do this in the future. So I'll start this on July 5th. And then I'll run it for 2 weeks from July 5th. So 1, 2, and we'll let it stop on the 19th. So that way it's not going to continue forever. And if I forget that I've turned this campaign on for some reason, Google's not going to keep infinitely spending our money. So we'll go ahead and leave that alone. Now for networks, we just want to uncheck partners on display network. That's just to make sure all of our ads run on YouTube itself. Now, when it comes to locations, I recommend using states, territories, and provinces of the country that you're targeting. So if you're targeting multiple countries, go ahead and have multiple campaigns. So as an example, I'm going to go ahead and click on enter another location here and go to advanced search. I'll click on add locations in bulk, and then I will cheat and come over to one of my Excel sheets here, and I'm just going to copy all 50 states. Of course, you can change it based upon wherever country you are targeting. We'll go ahead and click on search. That was a weird way to say targeting. We will select target all, and now you can see we're selecting all 50 states. Now, why would we do this versus just typing in United States? Well, if we just typed in United States, we wouldn't have a breakdown of how different states are performing as we start to get some view data. So we'll go ahead and click on save. It just segments our data for better understandings of which states actually care about our product or service. Languages, I typically just leave alone. Now, it's really important because you're not targeting one of the main spoken languages of the country, then yes, this is going to be a big deal. But just keep in mind, a lot of people watch YouTube when they're not signed in. So you may want to play with this a little bit if languages is really important. For inventory, I know we're going fast, but timestamps below to come back, and you can always come back to the beginning of the section where we have this table set out for you for all of the settings. So we are on inventory types now. We'll go ahead and click on expanded inventory. All this means is we are going to show our ads on videos that big brands are scared of because of brand equity and corporate reasons, right? So we'll just leave this alone. It'll help lower our ad costs. Unless you, of course, you really judge people by what they watch on YouTube, in which case you can go ahead and opt to pay more. So let's go ahead and click on excluded types and labels. We don't want to show up in embedded videos. We probably don't want to show up on live stream. And I'm going to uncheck content not yet labeled because when it comes to running things for our own business and our clients, I tell them the same thing I'm telling you right now. It just doesn't matter. Like someone is choosing to watch that video. So you really don't have to be concerned about what your ad is showing up in front of. And this is just another way to lower your ad costs. If for some reason that's really important to you, you can go ahead and leave that box checked. It's the way you want to run your campaigns. So for additional settings, we have conversions, devices, frequency, and ad schedule. So ad schedule is really important if you have anything related to office hours or needing to call people back or needing people to be able to call you. Obviously, you don't want people joining your email list at 12:30 a.m. your time if you know that it's really good if you call people as soon as they've opted in for something. So we'll go ahead and leave this for all day because this is a digital product. For conversions, go ahead and leave that alone until you've gone through your data layers and you set up advanced conversions and you're ready to play with that stuff. It's easier to break things here, but we do want to click on devices because we don't want to show up on TV screens. You can't click on a TV screen. TV screens are only good for brand awareness or trying to get some watch time because people forget that the TV's on and your video just plays and then you get some good watch time, which doesn't really help grow your channel either, but I digress. So we'll go ahead and leave the rest of those settings alone. And with that, you've actually ready to create your campaign. Your campaign is done. So you can actually go into the ad group creation right now, but I'll go ahead and set up the campaign so you know how to create future ad groups. We'll go ahead and skip ad group for now. We'll go ahead and create, we'll skip. Yes, we want to skip. And then we will create our campaign. So at this point, our campaign is actually ready to go. It's not live because we've scheduled it for the future to run for 2 weeks, but you can see it's going to start on July 5th. We have all of our states selected, no ad groups, no ads. And of course, it's letting us know that your campaign is not going to do anything because there's nothing in it. So we'll go ahead and click on continue to campaign here. And now we're ready to create our ad groups. So think of ad groups as the different groupings of audiences, the different ideal customers or prospects that you're going to be targeting. So all we need to do is we are inside all campaigns, our campaign here. I'll go ahead and zoom out so you can see everything. And of course, you can click on the left-hand side to your different campaigns. So I'll go ahead and click on the blue plus button here, and we'll go ahead and set up our first ad group. Now, our first ad group is going to be a combined custom audience. Now, I'll go ahead and zoom back in here, so 150, so I can see it. And we don't need all that extra space anyway. I'll go ahead and change the name. So since I already know what I'm going to select here, that's what I'm calling it. I recommend you name your ad groups by what you are targeting because you only want to have one targeting option per ad group. This is so important. If you have more than one in your ad group, you're not going to know which one's working with YouTube ads. It's not like any other of the Google Ads products. So I'm going to create a combined audience here, new business plus SEM, and we'll get to that in a moment. Now, first what we want to do is come here to demographics, and I'm going to uncheck 18 to 24 just because I know that those people typically aren't really, or that age group, those people, that age group isn't really interested in learning how to run Google Ads. Most of them aren't. So we know most of our customers are going to be at least 25 and above because they've been in business for a few years. Now, when it comes to these settings, I recommend leaving the rest alone unless it's absolutely critical to your business. Now, obviously, if you sell things that have to do with kids, then maybe you want to only target parents. Just keep in mind, every time you uncheck a box here, you are increasing your ad costs. And yes, you might be able to be more targeted, but remember, a lot of people watch YouTube when they're not logged in. So just keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to the rest of our settings, we're actually going to come down and we're going to skip content and we're going to come straight into audiences. And I just realized I forgot to go all over our settings, so I'll talk about this now. When it comes to audiences, what you want to look at is who are they, life events, and then we're going to layer that with something called in market. So of course you can always come back to this timestamp. Yes, I did go through and type out all of the top level options that you have. And so what you're going to want to do is layer a who are they or life event plus an in-market audience. So we'll go through this right now, but again, timestamps to just get an understanding of your options when it comes to how to layer these things. It's completely possible that you go through all this and you go, none of these work. And in that particular instance, you're just going to be stuck targeting keywords, which is not ideal or topics. So we'll get to more on that in a little bit here. So I'm going to click on browse. And the first place we want to go is who are they? So right now, you're just going to be making notes. You're not creating the audience yet. And we can filter by parental status, marital, education, homeownership, and employment. For me, I know that a lot of our customers are actually already in a relationship or married, and that's just using the Facebook Audience Insights tool and just looking at our client list. So the other place that you're going to look is what are they actively researching or planning? So we can use life events, and you can see here we have quite a few really important life events that can be helpful to your business and figuring out who specifically to target. And then we also have in-market audiences. So coming back to our list here, we're going to go through and find all of the who are they and life events that are relevant to our ideal customer. And then we're going to find all of the in-market audiences that are relevant to our customer, and we're going to combine them. So as an example here, I'm going to combine marital status and employment and life events with some in-market audiences. So here's how you do that. We're going to come back all the way back out, and we're going to click on combined audiences, and we're going to create a new combined audience. Now in this particular instance, I'm just going to name the audience the exact same thing I'm naming the ad group, so new business plus SEM. So this is match any of these audiences. If you've done anything with Facebook ads, you're probably familiar with this. So what we can do is click on browse, and I want people who have just started a new business. So I'm going to click on what are they actively researching or planning. I'm going to click on life events, drop down business creation, recently started a business. I don't want people who are thinking about it. I want people who have, because now they need traffic, right? So we'll go ahead and select that. I'll click out, and then I can narrow or exclude. So I'll go ahead and click on narrow here. So they've started a new business and they're actively looking for advertising services. So I'll click on browse again, go to in market. Now, yes, there's affinity. If you can't find anything in the in market, then go to affinity. But affinity is really broad. So in market is definitely where you want to start. If you can't find something in market, then go over to affinity, because affinity has a lot of options here. So if we went to like banking and finance, oh, that's a terrible example. Come on, show me more than two. All right, this is not working. There we go. So there are a lot of options inside of affinity, but here, because I know there's in market, I'm going to click on in market now, and I'll come down to business services, and we'll go to advertising. You can see it goes down and goes down. And we don't do email marketing, but we do provide SEO and search engine management services. Search engine management. Yeah, that's what SEM stands for. I should know that. Okay. So now what we've done is we're telling Google we want to target someone who's recently started a business and they're actively looking for our type of service. And so all we need to do is click on create here. Do I recommend doing more combinations? Probably not. No, I think 1 and 1 is good, and you could just make a campaign and make a ad group for each one of these. So we'll go ahead and click on create here. And now we have our combined audience. And that's all there is to it, to creating your combined audience and then adding it to your ad group. So we can go ahead and do this one more time. I'll make another ad group with a different combination. But when you look at this column, you only want one thing here. One audience here. That's so important. I get so many questions about this. And the reason you only want one audience here is because Google, with their reporting, is going to give you information at the ad group level that they won't give you at the audience level. So you will look at views and impressions, and you won't know which audience actually provided the best results because all the audiences are in the same ad group and all the data has been lumped together. So I'll get off that soapbox. And you can click reach more people. I don't recommend doing it, but you can. There's an option. And then we'll go ahead and set our bid to, let's be cheap and start 10 cents. So 10 to 30 cents is where I recommend you start. Again, timestamps, you can come back to this particular, this table where you can kind of get a sense of all the options that you have. So we'll go ahead and skip ad creation for now. I'll go ahead and click on skip here, and we will save our ad group. Now it's going to ask us discovery or skippable. Click skippable. You can't undo this. So we never want skippable and discovery in the same campaign, always two separate. So now we have, it says not eligible because it's in the future and there's no ads in it. So I'll go ahead and do this one more time. I'm going to be a lot faster this time, and we're going to create another combined audience with another ad group. So I'll go ahead and instead of being SEM, we're going to target married people. So we'll come down to demographics, uncheck 18. Anything you do here, do for all your ad groups across your campaign. Make sure it's apples to apples comparisons. We'll go to audiences here, and we can go to browse. We'll go to, that's not the run, combined audiences, and we'll click on to create a new one. I'll go ahead and do married plus SEM. So matches any of the following. So here, when we go to browse, we can go to who are they, and we can click on marital status and say married people. We want married business owners. So we'll click on married, and then we will narrow our audience and say and we will use the same in market again. So I'll click on in market. We'll look for business services here, and then we can click drop one more drop down, SEO, SEM. There we go. So in both instances, we're looking for people who are looking for our service, but we are being very targeted with the type of person looking for our service. So we'll go ahead and click on create here, and we have our one audience. So we'll come down and skip all of the content. We will come to put in our bid, 10 cents per view, not to be confused with our ad campaign budget, which is how much we'll spend per day. We'll go ahead and skip our ad creation and tell them that we want it to be an in-stream ad. Yes, we want to skip, save our ad group, skippable in-stream ad, save format. So what you can do with your third campaign is I have these two combined ones. If we were going to be spending $7.50 or $10 a day, I'd add another ad group where I only target the in-market audience of SEM and SEO. And so this way you can start to essentially test your different audiences and see how they perform against each other. But since we're only going to do $5 a day for this particular campaign, I'll go ahead and leave these two audiences where they are. And I will go ahead and click on one of our ad groups to create our ad. So we'll go ahead and click the blue plus button here, and we will go ahead and paste in the URL of the video that we're going to use. And of course, you can see what it's going to look like on mobile and desktop. Now, quickly want to talk about how on earth do you structure your video? What video should you be using here? That is a whole nother can of worms. Now, I have seen some advice of people saying you can just go over to Fiverr or use one of those services where you pay $100 or $200 and your video ad is all text. We have spent a few $1,000s on video ads like that, and they just haven't worked for us. That doesn't mean they won't work for you, because what's most important with advertising is to realize that just because you watch a video like this, or you watch a bunch of other ones and they say this is the right formula, that's the right formula, the whole point of advertising is testing. It's all about testing. So I can provide you with a formula like this, which is the personal formula that I have used over the past couple of years that has worked really well. But the reality is this formula has worked for some of our clients and it hasn't worked for others. It's worked for some e-commerce and services businesses, and it hasn't worked for other e-commerce and other services businesses. So I will link up in the description to our Google Ads Copywriter course, which has multiple different formulas and can help you really figure out how to structure and what to say in your videos. And even if you don't decide to work with us or purchase one of our courses, just remember that it's all about testing and that there is no magic formula. There's no magic pill here. So I'll go ahead and go through our copywriting formula to hopefully give you something to springboard with and start, but you have to keep testing. All right, I will get off that soapbox. Let's go ahead and jump in here. So with your ad, remember that you only pay after someone has watched 30 seconds. So the whole point of the first 30 seconds is to alienate everyone who's not a good fit by talking about who you are specifically for. So you want to talk about how your product or service makes things easier or allows someone to achieve a very specific result. Don't just say, hey, anyone who's interested in making more money online should totally take this Google Ads copywriting course. Like that doesn't make any sense. You will need to be specific. You might see ads that are broad like that. They're not going to work very well for you and your business. So the next thing you want to do is have a clear call to action. So after 30 seconds, go ahead and say click or tap in the top right on mobile, bottom on desktop, or you can just say go ahead and click the blue banner at the bottom of this video and then tell people your unique selling proposition if you haven't already done so with the hook. Now for the next 45 to 60 seconds, just present some of the benefits of whatever your offer is, even if it's a lead magnet, and then handle some buying objections here. Because if someone's still watching after 40 seconds, they are interested. So we can assume that someone is a good fit for a product or service, and we can move past trying to hook them in, trying to grab attention, and we can move into handling some objections and talking about how specifically this is going to be helpful to them. Then you should be more than 90 seconds into your ad right now. Just spend 15 seconds debunking a common myth. This is just a way to show that you're contrarian and you're not like everybody else. And then of course, finish up with a final call to action. What's very important here is you actually have an end screen for at least 15 to 20 seconds. So the total runtime of your ad should be 2.5 minutes or less, because people are going to look at that runtime and go, yeah, no, I don't want to stick around for 5 minutes while this person explains. But if it's 2.5 minutes or less, you can get your ideal customers to actually stick around for a significant amount of time. I know that is a super oversimplification, but hopefully this helps you get started. Again, link in the description to our YouTube Ads Copywriter course if you'd like to learn more about this formula and some others that we have. So when it comes to actually uploading your video, make sure that it's uploaded as unlisted, so that way someone's not going to accidentally stumble across it, because you're going to be saying some things that are specific to being run as an in-stream ad. And of course, you can see here the skip button, and if we go to mobile, we aren't seeing the blue banner yet. So we'd go ahead and put in our final URL. So this is going to be the actual landing page URL, and I'm just making one up here. And then for your display URL, this is what's actually going to show up. You only need to show your actual domain. So you can have a subdomain here and then your main domain here. They have to be the same domain though. So keep that in mind if you're using any sort of third-party tracking that's having you forward through another domain. That's not going to work too well. So we'll go ahead and click on call to action here. And that's what's going to allow you to have this banner at the bottom. And you do want this banner because that's how people are actually going to click. And my blurring software is accidentally blurring things out. But you can see when I hover over it, this is what the call to action will look like on mobile. And this is what the call to action will look like on desktop. So that is, or this is both this is both desktop. It's been a little bit of a long video here. For our call to action, we want it to be something really straightforward to let people know they should click. So we could say something like click here, or we could go ahead and just say start now. Start now. And of course you can play with it. You only have 10 characters. There's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do here. And then for our headline, let's make this results based. So something in the fact of optimize leads, we could probably do a much better job. And then we can come down here. You can just leave it at auto-generated banner, or you could upload your own image. And if someone clicks on that banner, it'll automatically count as a view and you will be charged even if someone skips within the first 30 seconds. And we'll just go ahead and give our ad a quick name here. And I'm just going to say headline 1 or C for call to action 1. And then we'll go C1, headline 1. And maybe we're going to test what the call to action and headline says. So we'll go and click on save here. And of course, we want to copy this ad to our other ad group. So I'll go ahead and select edit and I will copy. And then I can come over to the left-hand side here. So I'm in F34, which is my campaign, and I'm going to click on my other ad group here, and you'll see there's no ad, so I can just click on paste. It'll automatically pull up this window, and I can go ahead and click on done, and I will paste in the ad. So now the same ad is in both of our ad groups. And I can come up here and I'll click on F34, so I come out to our campaign, and you'll be able to see that we have our ad groups here, New Biz SEM, Married SEM. We have our 2 ads that are the exact same. You want the exact same ad across all of your ad groups. We could add another one here, but just keep in mind that Google's not actually going to split test them. They're always going to force you to use Google Optimize. And what that is Google will automatically select one of them. So I like just having one ad per ad group per campaign, because that way I know the exact ad that is working. So we can come back up here to ad groups, and with that, our campaign is set up and ready to go. Of course, you can follow this process for some other campaigns. I recommend having your campaign starting anywhere from $250 all the way up to $10 or $12.50 per day, just depending upon your budget. And the final step of this process, of course, is to actually analyze everything that comes in. So because we just set up this campaign, I'll go ahead and jump to a campaign that ran in the past. So we actually have some data. I'm going to go ahead and expand this a little bit so we can see the numbers. Now I'll jump back over to our slides here so that you know which columns you should be looking at at the campaign level and at the ad group level. So when it comes to analyzing a campaign, you want to have at least 1,000 impressions and at least 100 views before you start changing anything. If you don't have at least that, then you don't have enough data to make any good decisions. Your view rate for an in-stream campaign, if you're 40% or above, you're doing okay. Anything below 40 or 35%, you probably have some targeting issues or some messaging issues. And then of course, percent played to, you want people who've actually continued to watch, to 30% of them to reach at least 25% of your 2.5 or 90-second ad. And then display rank lost and budget lost are 2 columns that you're going to want to add. And as you become more advanced in the future, you'll start to use those to gauge whether or not you can scale a campaign. So I'll just talk about display lost is. This is letting you know how many views or impressions you missed out on because your ad budget was too low. So the lower this number, the less you can scale a campaign. Now let's go ahead and jump into our ad groups here inside of a campaign and actually do some live analysis. So you can see we only spent $60 on this campaign over a 2-week period. I have it just filtered it by all time right now. And you can see that the views are really spaced out. One ad group got 82, another got 943. And so this is completely normal. This will happen to you where you go, why the heck didn't Google evenly spread these out? And so what you're going to do in the future is you'll actually have to take, let's see, we would take 943 and the 206 and 266, and we'd probably put them in their own campaign because they're sucking up all of the budget from these other ad groups, and now I don't know which ad group is actually working better. So that would be step number 1. You're looking at the views and you're saying, okay, this one's getting a lot of views. It needs to be its own campaign because it's stealing too much budget from everything else. Now, the second thing we'd want to look at is, of course, the view rate. So the view rate is telling us which audience is actually engaging with our video ad. And you can see here, this one's at 33%. So whatever this particular targeting is, you can see that we spent, I think, the 3rd most on this ad group. Whatever we're doing here isn't working. So I would go ahead and turn this off because these view rates are so much better. Then the next one we would look at is, of course, click-through rate, or CTR. That is, what are the percentage of people who viewed the video actually clicked it? So looking down here, we have 2.37%, which is pretty good. Now coming back to our baselines here, the mouse would work. Come on, there we go. You want above 0.5%. So anything above 0.5% on the display network, you're doing pretty good. So we can go ahead and actually look to optimize those. That doesn't mean you just sit back and say, oh yeah, it's all figured out. That just means the ad group doesn't stink. So in this particular instance, looking at our CTR here, this one, that's not looking too hot. And our average CPC is much higher. And you can see that we're paying $3. We're down here, we're only paying $1.52, and we're paying 73.70 cents. Now, something that's interesting is the ad group that got the worst view, one of the worst view rates, actually has a pretty decent click-through rate and a pretty decent cost per click. And so this is why you always have to look at the full picture. Because if I was just looking at view rate, just like I said earlier, oh, it looks like we should cut it. But then I look at the click-through rate and the average cost per click, and I go, well, it doesn't matter that a lot of people don't like it. I'm getting enough people who are actually clicking that it might actually make sense to continue. Now, of course, we look at conversions and we see nobody converted, and we have an ad group down here that got 9 conversions and an ad group right here that got 6 conversions, giving us a 3 and 10% conversion rate. So those would be the 2 ad groups out of all of this, all of this, that I would want to immediately break out into their own campaign and create ads specifically designed for those audiences, because clearly those audiences work. And having a conversion rate above 2%, you are doing really, really good. Let's go ahead and optimize. Above 1%, you have some work to do. And if it's less than 0.5%, then you should probably just stop it. And then cost per conversion, pretty much anything under $5, and you're doing pretty well. And so that pretty much does it for the analysis. I know I was talking a little fast because we could spend hours going through this campaign alone, but just keep in mind that you always want to focus on your end result. And just because you're looking at a view rate that looks bad, or maybe the cost per click isn't looking bad, if your conversions are good and the conversions are what you care about, then optimize for those conversions and you can ignore the other metrics. Of course, if you don't have conversions, then you do have to use view rate, and you do have to use your cost per click as a metric and a guide as to which ad groups or campaigns to continue working with. So that does it for how to set up your Google Ads campaign to optimize for leads and sales. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive Google Ads videos and some lighter marketing videos as well. And until the next, keep building the business you love.